Syria's ceasefire shatters. Fierce battles between the army and US-backed Kurdish forces erupt along the Euphrates. Rocket fire, civilian deaths, tribes taking prisoners. UN investigators uncover mass killings, 1,400 dead in coastal massacres, and in Ankara, a deal to arm and train Syria's military. Is this stability or the spark for a new regional war? Fighting has intensified across multiple Syrian provinces as government forces clash with Kurdish militias in what appears to be the most serious breakdown of ceasefire agreements since the interim government took power. On late August 13th, violent confrontations erupted in Deir ez-Zor governorate, with Syrian army units and Syrian Democratic Forces exchanging heavy fire from opposite banks of the Euphrates River. According to Syria TV correspondents reporting from the scene, the clashes involved submachine guns and rocket-propelled grenades after SDF members targeted a Syrian army post near the heart hospital in Deir ez-Zor. The attack resulted in injuries to several military personnel and local fishermen, prompting immediate retaliation from government forces. The violence has spread beyond military engagements into civilian areas. In the town of Garanij, in eastern Deir ez-Zor countryside, tribal fighters engaged in violent clashes with SDF forces, resulting in more than 5 civilian casualties. Syria TV reported that the SDF brought massive military reinforcements and surrounded the town's Al-Haiz neighborhood, while tribal fighters reportedly captured 4 SDF members during the confrontations. This escalation follows Tuesday's deadly incident in Aleppo province, where the Syrian Ministry of Defense announced that a Syrian army member was killed in an attack launched by 2 SDF groups on military positions in the Tal Mars area. The ministry stated via Sana news agency that army units successfully repelled the attack and forced the attackers to withdraw, but warned of serious consequences if such operations continue. The Syrian Ministry of Defense issued a stark warning, calling on the SDF to adhere to signed agreements and cautioning.
The continuation of these actions will lead to new consequences.
The ministry accused the SDF of continued targeting of army positions in Manbij and Deir Hafa and closing roads leading to Aleppo from positions near the Leyramoun roundabout, describing these actions as clear violations of understandings reached with the Syrian government. Adding to the regional instability, an explosion was heard in the city of Idlib in northwest Syria on August 14th, as reported by Syria's official Ekbaria TV, though authorities were still working to verify the nature of the blast. A United Nations Commission of Inquiry has released damning findings about sectarian violence that swept through Syria's coastal regions, concluding that war crimes were likely committed by both interim government forces and fighters loyal to the former Assad regime. The violence, which primarily targeted Alawi communities and culminated in massacres during early March, resulted in approximately 1,400 deaths, predominantly civilians.
The scale and brutality of the violence documented in our report is deeply disturbing. We call on the interim authorities to continue to pursue accountability for all perpetrators, regardless of affiliation or rank.
The Commission's extensive investigation, based on more than 200 interviews with victims and witnesses, as well as visits to mass grave sites, uncovered a disturbing pattern of systematic violence. In multiple locations, men were first identified as belonging to the Alawi sect, then separated from women and children before being led outside to be shot and killed.
The affected communities need to see urgent action to increase their protection. Beyond referral of suspected perpetrators to criminal justice, individuals suspected of involvement in violations during the March events should be immediately removed from active duties pending investigation.
The violence included torture, killings and inhumane treatment of the dead, with bodies left in streets for days while families were prevented from conducting proper burials. Medical facilities in Tartus and Latakia became overwhelmed as corpses accumulated, having already seen their capacity crippled by earlier attacks from pro-former government fighters. The Commission documented that some of these horrific acts were filmed and disseminated on social media, along with footage showing civilians being abused and humiliated. The extreme violence has deepened existing rifts between communities, contributing to what the UN describes as a climate of fear and insecurity among Syrians throughout the country. Meanwhile, a Turkish Defense Ministry source told Reuters on August 14th that Turkey will provide weapons systems and logistical tools to Syria under a military cooperation accord signed on Wednesday, adding that Ankara would also train the Syrian army in using such equipment if needed. Turkey, a NATO member, has been one of Syria's main foreign allies since the ousting of President Bashar al-Assad last year. It has vowed to help train and restructure Syria's armed forces, rebuild the country and its state institutions, and support efforts to protect Syrian territorial integrity. In a first step towards a comprehensive military cooperation accord that they have been negotiating for months, Turkey and Syria inked a memorandum of understanding on Wednesday after extensive meetings between their foreign and defense ministers and intelligence chiefs.
The memorandum aims to coordinate, plan military training and cooperation, provide consultancy, information and experience sharing, ensure the procurement of military equipment, weapon systems, logistical materials, and related services.
Turkey has been growing impatient with what it calls the lack of implementation of a March deal between Damascus and the Kurdish-Led US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces for integrating the SDF into the Syrian state apparatus. Ankara has warned of military action against the SDF, which it considers a terrorist organization and against which it has carried out cross-border operations in the past. It has said that clashes between the SDF and Syrian government forces earlier this month and a conference held by the SDF calling for a review of Syria's constitutional declaration threatened the country's territorial integrity. The Turkish source said the SDF had not met any of the conditions of the March deal and reiterated Ankara's accusation that its actions were undermining Syria's political unity. The source added that Ankara's expectation is full compliance with the agreement that was signed and its urgent implementation in the field.